Any old content is a navy blue background or a hot pink background with some white writing on it. That's great for a quote, but it might not stop the scroll. It might be inspiring for a split second, but it's not going to draw people in. We believe that when you create content that is easy to consume, e.g. people keep coming back because they're having a great experience with it, or they're learning something, or they feel really connected to it. When you're easy to consume, you become inevitable to buy. The money is in the boring. As it relates to a thought leader, we do grow and evolve very, very quickly. So we are bored with the information that we've created before because we've moved on from it. Usually by the time people come to me, it's like, don't you make me read that book? Don't you make me go through all of that content? Like, just don't do that. You're automatically overcomplicating it straight away by thinking that you need to actually reread the book. The goal is not reading the book.
Ooh, tell us more about that. Welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited that you're joining me. Now, if you're someone that has a book and you have finally finished it and you don't want to write another word, but you are not maximizing it to your full ability in the content realm, or if you're someone that's thinking about writing a book, then I think today's conversation is going to really help you to understand the value beyond the book. So Sally, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to be chatting with you about this topic today.
Thank you very much, Samantha. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm very thrilled. Thank you.
Now, you help legacy-focused leaders become sought after and sold out and monetize their content. How did you begin to do this in the first place? What was that thing where you went, this is it?
This is it. Well, there's certainly a few
what I call defining moments in that backstory. So I'll just share some of those if I may. It started initially nearly 15 years ago when one of my mentors said to me, "For God's sake, Sally, you've got enough content for 6 books." And at that time, I thought he was mad because I didn't enjoy writing. But we did go on to turn a 45-minute presentation and a training manual for the 2-day workshop into 2 100-page books. So, woohoo, I became an author. Like most of my clients, I didn't do anything with that book afterwards. And then 8 years later, I was in the thought leadership space, working with professional speakers, was in that game myself. And I was seeing their fatigue and frustration of being on a content hamster wheel of creating content all the time. And I said, "Oh, for God's sakes, just give me your book," because I could see their inner genius in it. And I love doing creative works, and Canva just come out around then. So I started creating bite-sized content for them. Then I got asked again. And I went, could this be a thing? And then I had a completely cold client referred to me who had written a book and had been interviewed on that book, had 3 hours worth of interviews. So we dove into it and we were going through his book and his video content, etc. And in the end, we ended up creating 375 assets for him from just those 2 assets. And it was actually him that said, "Woo, that's 2 years worth of content done," which was where the penny dropped for me. And I went, oh my God, we can turn books into 2 years worth of content, which is how we've become best known for what we do.
I love that. What I love most about that is that there are so many experts, thought leaders, coaches that understand the importance of writing a book. That doesn't mean that they all do it, but they all understand the importance of writing the book. It's such a great positioning piece. It's such a great way to make your thought leadership or put it into a container. I think that even just the writing of the book helps you to make sense of what you talk about.
Absolutely.
But then what I do see, exactly what you're talking about, is just about everyone I know that's written a book. It's like they finish the writing and then it's like, oh, done. Don't have to do it like that. That's so good. I wrote a book. And from what I've seen and the way that I coach my clients is it's like that's just the beginning. Most people think of writing the book as the ending, but the way that I see it, it's just the beginning. There's so much that comes from that. However, the other thing that I see is that thought leaders are creatives. They love to create, they love to come up with new ideas, and they get bored hearing their own story over and over again. They get bored talking about their same things over and over again. How do you balance that? Because I'm sure you see that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to say a phrase that one of my dear friends said to me, who's in a slightly different industry, but it comes across really as a really good parallel. And that is, the money is in the boring.
Oh, I've not heard that before. That's powerful.
Yeah, and that just gives me goosebumps every time I say it. So in her context, it was in real estate, and those things that you have to do all the time that you get bored with are where the money is. As it relates to a thought leader, we do grow and evolve very, very quickly. So we are bored with the information that we've created before because we've moved on from it. So there's a couple of opportunities there. There is the opportunity of what I would classify as leverage as it relates to, you've created it once, use it often. Every single piece can be leveraged into many, many other pieces to simplify your behind the computer time and allow you to be client facing and on stage more. So there's that element of leverage. But there's also the monetizing opportunities where if you've got bored with something, but you've got great content, you can either open up a new community with that content. And if you are really super bored with it, you can collaborate with somebody else that serves a similar audience, whose audience is at that stage, and provide them with some content and some assets, which does enable you to create another income stream or to monetize some of that content that you've got bored with.
Love it. I love it. So talk to us about turning this book into 2 years of content. Sounds great. I'm like, yes, let's do this. Someone's listening to this and they've got a book.
Yep.
Probably the first thing I'm guessing is they're thinking, I don't want to open that book again. Like, again, it's done. Just give us a brief idea. Where do they start?
Where do they start? Absolutely. Usually by the time people come to me, it's like, don't you make me read that book? Don't you make me go through all of that content? It's like, just don't do that. And that's why we do what we do, because people do have that experience. And I love going through people's book. But I think the greatest tip that I can give everybody is you're automatically overcomplicating it straight away by thinking that you need to actually reread the book. Uh-huh. The gold is not reading the book. Okay.
Oh, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So if you look at the book holds the key. So let's start at the beginning. At the front cover holds the key to what the theme is. Mm-hmm. Might be a book on leadership, for example. There might be some specificity in there, but the theme of that content is, in that case, leadership. So okay, that's the big key word. It's around leadership. So that's the first clue. Then when you look at the back page, often that is what the key takeaways are within the book. So that sort of helps you narrow your focus a little bit. It gives you a little bit more of an idea of what the outcome or the transformation that's within the book that people might want to know about, because again, that book is holding the key. Then if you go to the index page, oh my gosh, the index page, this page is the gold, right? This is your content in chapters. It's already choreographed. It actually could give you a 12-month calendar plan of what content to create or to look for within that book. And then, of course, each chapter, now we're getting into the I've got to read the chapter section, which is, yeah. I'm just going to, burst that myth. Now, if we go back to something in the 90s that used to be called the stereogram visuals, they were those, I'm going to call them psychedelic, it's not quite the right term, but those weird and wonderful images that you had to squint at or change your focus on your eyes to be able to see an image that jumped off the page. Does that make sense? Remember those? Yep. So when you use and I usually say it's weird eyes, but let's just call it magic eyes. If you use your magic eyes to enable that image to jump off the page, that magic eye process is exactly the same way we treat the individual pages of that chapter in that book. So instead of reading every single word, you just open the book and stare at it with your magical weird eyes and see what jumps off the page. Because if you've looked at the front cover the chapters and then the back cover, your brain's actually already thinking in keywords, key topics, and the content will literally jump off the page for you. That's when you've got to have a highlighter pen or a pencil and just go through and highlight it, or use your iPad and highlight it that way. That is how you find your content without having to read the book.
I love that. When you're talking about like the keywords or the big words or the topics, do you work that out first so that you can then, I guess, have your RAS, your reticulator activating system, like going in to find those pieces? Or is this just a process that you and your team are really good at and you just kind of go in there?
For somebody else, when they're looking at their own content, and for us as a process when I'm teaching somebody new, so it's a good scenario for both, is by looking at the front cover, the back cover, and then the content pages, you are fine-tuning, you are absolutely fine-tuning the focus, because you then know what you're looking for. You're not going to get caught with all of the other elements. So it does intuitively and strategically narrow the focus to the overarching theme, and then the key topics that the chapters are forming and the key elements that then helps you find what elements to be pulling out. And I say it that way because one of the books that we have worked with, we've actually gone through the book for 4 years worth of content. So we're up to the 4th year.
Wow.
We've just looked at that book with a different keyword or overarching theme to be able to go through and pull out certain elements out of it. So that process of looking at the front cover, back cover, content page in particular is really helping to narrow that focus, and that then makes the whole process much easier for everybody.
Do you find that this process is easier when it's someone that hasn't written the book? So my mind is kind of going down this route of, like when we're really good at something, we almost know our topic so well that sometimes we actually skip dots because our brain's automatically filling in the gaps. Is it similar in this process where it's almost easier for someone that hasn't written the book to go in and pull those key concepts out in smaller bite-sized pieces?
Yeah, very much so. I think as an expert, even when I look at my own content and I'm going through it in that manner for myself, I go, oh, I don't remember writing that. Oh, look at that. So you do have that, automatic curiosity, and you do. It is more complex because it is our content and we sort of see different things that we don't remember writing and those. So our brain does sort of think like that. Giving it to somebody like myself, or when other people work with their virtual assistants and those sorts of things, somebody that does have fresh eyes can look much more strategically. They can pull the right elements out. Now, because of my business development background, we look at the content from that perspective based on what we're selling into or the client strategy, etc. So somebody with fresh eyes, it is a simpler and faster process, but you certainly can do it yourself. You just got to be kind to yourself when you start going, oh, I don't remember writing that. I didn't do that, and all those weird things that we do when we're being reflective of our own stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned then around, different launches or different things that are happening in our business. How do you balance the content, your sort of everyday thought leadership content, and that more marketing content? I'd love to hear it from through your eyes or through your lens.
So we're often working with clients that have marketing teams as well. So I'll sort of just preface that. But from my perspective, and this comes back to, my business development days and working with Dale Beaumont that talks about, getting your cash flow follows your calendar and getting your big rocks in the calendar, and then the medium size and then the small ones. So when we're working with a client, we'll look at that 90-day plan, that 90-day run, or that 12 months, depending on what offering we're working with them on. And we'll look at, what are you selling into? What have you got a webinar coming up? Are you on somebody else's podcast? All those things that make the tapestry of marketing, influence and relatability, and, look at what's already on that calendar plan. And then we'll look at the content that we've actually pulled and help choreograph it. Predominantly, we tend to specialize in being that, providing that consistency piece because of creating a library of reusable assets like we do. And within those assets that we create, we do look at the range of marketing style assets that somebody needs. We call them visual campaigns, for example. So, do we need to create content that is positioning the thought leader and their expertise? Do we need to look at content that helps to position their clientele? So how can we have somebody look at some of our content and go, oh my God, that's a mirror reflection of me, and connect in that manner so they can see the potential transformation that that coach or expert could help them with. And then you've got your promotional pieces, obviously, and your behind the scenes pieces and the personable pieces, and then the question asking and all those sorts of engagement pieces as well. So we do look at it from the strategy of business development, but personalizing it, and how can we do it, and what pieces of content or visual campaigns do we need when the support, the things that they're doing, the overarching marketing that they may be doing as well to fill events or speaking gigs, etc.
What I'm hearing, and it's something that I talk with my clients about a lot, is that content needs to have a purpose. That a lot of people think, oh, well, I just need to put any content out. But it does need to be targeted, and it does need to have a purpose. Like, what are we actually doing it for? Who is this going to be read by? Who is going to interact with this? Who are the people that we're trying to communicate with? And before we started recording, you said not all content is great content. Can you walk us through what is not good content and what is good content? Like, what constitutes both of those?
Both those, yeah, great question. So for me, I'm going to say, lots of people will put lots of just any old content out. Hey, I've been guilty for this as well. The content that we create is bite-sized and it's highly visual. So I say highly visual, and if you think of it like this, you've got your book, which is your long form, lots and lots of text, and we turn that into your traditional type of postcard. So we're creating visually emotive content. That's what we specialize in, that's bite-sized. So if you're creating visual content, and Canva's such a great place to start, but, any old content is a, navy blue background or a hot pink background with some white writing on it, that's great for a quote, but it might not stop the scroll. It might be inspiring for a split second, but it's not going to, it's not going to draw people in. We believe that when you create content that is easy to consume, e.g. people keep coming back because they're having a great experience with it, or they're learning something, or they feel really connected to it, when you're easy to consume, you become inevitable to buy. So we really craft and help clients, and we talk about this as well, creating content that is compelling and very emotive. So we will utilize imagery that is very representative of the clientele that the speaker's looking for, or creates a transformation. We have taken our strategies of that emotive visual content, just a really strong photograph or a really strong theme in a short little bite-sized video that could be a video that's on Canva, or could be your own video, where someone feels connected to it and they have that mirror reflection of it. And Apple and Nike do this really, really well in their campaign. So we sort of have adopted that strategy of being able, somebody seeing an image and instantly feeling connection to it, which is what stops the scroll and enables them to read it and then continue the consuming. But if people can do that on the fly, and they keep coming back to view your content when they're having their worst day ever, then you're creating compelling, emotive content. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. And where I'm seeing that this is going to be even more valuable in 2025 is as AI is taking over so quickly. Like, the conversations I've had in the last couple of weeks with what's about to roll out in the first half of 2025, like, my brain cannot comprehend even what the end of 2025 will look like. And I've never spoken about things in that such a short time frame before. We're like, oh, in this decade, or in this huge amount of time. And already I'm going, I can't even begin to imagine what AI looks like at the end of 2025 and how, it's so integral as part of our business. However, the opportunity for that on the other side is that we're going to be craving that human connection even more. I think that really good content is already standing out. I think most of us can tell when something's been written by AI now.
Yep.
And being able to create that content in a way that is unique to us in our own way, has that creative flair to it, and that does bring that emotive response, is going to be even more valuable than it has been in the past, because we're not going to give the time of day to crappy content anymore.
Yeah, totally agree. And hasn't it moved fast?
Oh my God.
Yeah, just so fast. And I want to say here too, we do utilize AI as far as our systems and our processes and speeding things up and cross-checking things. But to find the essence of somebody, to create content that is a true extension of that person and that personality, then that requires a human being doing that. Yes, AI can help us find some of those elements, but it doesn't have the same depth of connection and cannot bring all of the different pieces together to tell that visual story and connect in with it.
Yeah.
But like God, is it a godsend as far as, speeding processes up and, brainstorming and, mapping some of that sort of stuff. Absolute godsend. Glad it's here.
Oh my goodness, yes. Like, I'd certainly agree with you. I definitely wasn't saying AI is not the thing.
Yeah.
We use a lot of AI in our business because it brings speed.
Yes.
What we're playing with now in our little world is, it's artificial intelligence plus human intelligence equals augmented intelligence. And I think that this is I know as a company, this is what we're taking on. It's like, how can we use the speed, but bring in that human intelligence, that creativity, that unique flair that makes us us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you've used the word speed, because that used to be one of our, key selling points, is that, we can turn a book around in 4 weeks. So we had speed, and then IA came along and it was like, okay, we're not speed anymore. We still are, but not to the same level. But speed is so important in a thought leadership space, the ability to be able to move, and, speed to market's important, and being able to, duck and weave and implement. But again, that ducking and weaving and that implementing and that understanding that we need to remain relevant or the market shifted is a human thing.
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about consistency, because this is something else that you are just like banging on about, like consistency. Being able to use your book, how does this play into consistency? Because you're not talking about consistency just as, posting once a day kind of thing. Can you talk to us more about this?
Yeah, very much so. So consistency is absolutely my Sally nag, and anyone that knows me is going, oh no, here she goes again. But consistency is so important, and I've had that drummed into me because of being in business development and because of working with people in those large events. It's the little things that matter. If someone walks into your room that knows you from an events perspective, they have a consistent expectation that that room is going to feel, and you're going to be greeted in a certain way, and they're going to connect to it. So consistency is everywhere. So it's already selling that going off. So for me, one of the big challenges lots of people have as it relates to creating content and good, valuable content is that consistency piece. When we get tired and when we get overwhelmed and when we're just doing, oh my God, I've got to get some content out there, it ends up being promotional content. And we get stuck in that loop of promotional content is one of the battles. The other scenario is when we're inconsistent and we have good content and we've got content going out daily, and then we get busy, we've got clients coming in and the content falls off the cliff and our topics fall off the cliff. And then we have the, oh crap moment when we've gone down the bottom of the roller coaster. We've got, get back out there creating content again, and we get busy, and then we go back down the bottom with that roller coaster ride. Those dips or those troughs, when we've got our audience excited about our topics, our theme, and we're being consistently educating them and we're talking them about that content and we're helping them, when we suddenly disappear, there's two things that happen. One, we've broken trust. Two, what we've also done is we've created a hungry audience that doesn't stop being hungry just because we're not there. So what the opportunity that occurs is or the missed opportunity is obviously the potential sales that we're missing out. But those dips, when we have those significant dips in our content and our visibility, and the fact that we've, broken trust with those people that we've warmed up, we've actually warmed those people up for our competitors. So those dips in our consistency where we're inconsistent are in actual fact funding our competitors' marketing efforts. They're getting sales. So that's one of the things I often start my talks and presentations with is talking around the roller coaster of, the entrepreneurial journey, but what's happening in those dips and how we really are missing out on opportunities. That's not to say that our consistency has to be that posting once a day or, every day. We need to find what our consistency rhythm is based on our lifestyle and the business that we want to build. And then we need to marry that with when is our audience and the people that we're serving, when do they need it? Because I've got one client that, he only needs to post on once a week on a Sunday at 3:00 because that's when his community's online. So I'm not one of the marketing people that says you've got to be online every day and 3 days a week and here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
We go into this world as service providers and legacy leavers to create freedom for ourselves. So we need to start, what works for me, what works for who I serve, and where's my consistency threshold within that.
The other consistency piece, and I think you did touch at the beginning, but I want to bring it in under this consistency banner to really land at home, is the consistency of the message.
Yeah, with
a book, everything is consistently packaged up in that theme, in that topic, in that, in that story arc, however you want to describe it. And I think that something that I see is a lot of people, their content that, they're on that content hamster wheel, and, every couple of weeks their content shifts a little bit, even 1 degree, and then all of a sudden 6 months down the track they may have lost their way a little bit around who their content's aimed at, what the message is. And having that book as the anchor and really staying consistent to that topic and that theme, I think there's some beauty in that as well.
Yeah, very much so. And I think for me that's why I start with the phrase, the book holds the key. So you've got as we said, the front cover or the title is the theme for the year, and that title will have a key word in it, and then those chapters, because most books have got at least 8 to 12 chapters within them in most cases. That's your month by month content, and then you can just go through and pull certain pieces out, and that really does enable you to stick to that consistent content theme throughout the year. That's not to say that that's the only content that you create, because you can still do your on your run and here's my insight for the month or whatever. You can still do all of those pieces. But what it does is it keeps that consistent voice, that consistent message. It really does keep you positioned as the person that on that topic or those topics. And it just helps you to also see and get the feedback on those topics from your audience, so you know potentially what the next book could be or what your next year's theme could be, because you'll get insight into what people are looking for next. What do you need to unpack further for them? Where are the opportunities within your content, your existing content, and go from there. So I think, again, we race off to create the next new thing without stopping and pausing enough to listen, to serve from the place we're already serving from.
Totally. Oh, I love this so much. Now, you've got an ebook that you've written really about taking this idea to the next level, like capitalizing on your ideas. Can you tell us a little bit about what's in that book, who it's for?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a very simple ebook. Came with the birthing of one of my major frustrations, which was being consistent. This is why it's such a big Sally nag for me. When we're starting out and we don't have a book and we're just writing our articles and blog posts, etc., it's very difficult to write good quality content and have the consistency piece if we're not catching our ideas. And we all know how fleeting ideas are. We have them in the shower and driving in the car, and then we go, yeah, I'll remember that. And we don't. So this ebook is just a very simple system, and we call it the ideas airport, of how you can capture the ideas that are circling and that you can then bring them into the runway, so you can start to prioritize them, and then you can put them into the hangar when you've sort of started to look at how you're going to utilize that content. So it's a system that's great for capitalizing on your ideas as it relates to content creation, but it's also a great way to catch ideas as it relates to your business development ideas and common themes that come up with client interactions. Because I believe, in your head is not a strategy. When it's out of your head and on a board, even if it's post-it notes and scribble, which is what the system allows you to do, because messy is creative and innovative, messy is good. If it's messy and if it's out and you can see it, you can move post-it notes when you start to see clusters and those sorts of things. So the ebook is my airport's ideas process of how I go about capturing things and how I've then been able to, create content and monetize opportunities.
I love the idea of the airport, because straight away I got a visual of my airspace is very full. The tower is having a heart attack because there's way too many planes flying around there. So being able to get them out of the air and down onto the runway and the hangar sounds fabulous. And you're giving a free copy of that to all of our listeners today. So definitely go and grab that. Just scroll below wherever you're listening, and the link for that will be there for you to download the ebook. Sally, one of the things you've been talking about is having that one word or that one idea, that key. We're having this conversation, it's the beginning of the year. Do you set a theme or a keyword for your year?
I do. So I have a personal keyword, and this has been coming up because I've been seeing this more and more, and this word keeps coming up. It doesn't relate to my content, but it relates to the growth aspect that I'm going to have for my business. And that word is the collective. I am seeing people come up. I've always been about collaboration. I've always been about partnerships, but I am seeing a shift from that partnerships and collaboration to collectives forming. And that gives me goosebumps talking about it. So I have that.
And that's what our keyword should do, right? Because it's meant to be that personal. And I love that word. And knowing the little groups that are forming around some of the conversations I've been having in my world, I couldn't agree more that people are really leaning into that. And I think it comes back to that connection piece that people really want, and also the change in energy. We're moving from a very masculine era into a more feminine era, more creative era. Yeah, love that so much. For anyone that's listening right now and they've got a book, or even if they don't have a book, what is the one key concept or the gift that you want to leave them with today in relation to anything, really? That one thing you want to leave the listeners with?
There's 3 words I usually like to say, and I've got it on a post-it note because this, again, Sally nags end up post-it notes as reminders to myself as much as everybody else. And I have 3 words that I always like to chat with people with and end with is see, sell, simplify.
Ooh.
See all the opportunities that you have within your existing content and circling around you, which relates to the airports, capitalizing airport ideas, etc. Sell relates to conversations, human connections lead to conversions. So sell, but it starts with conversations. And then simplify. For God's sakes, don't overcomplicate stuff. Just create really simple systems and just rinse and repeat. We overcomplicate too much.
I love it. And I'm going to just drop this in here. My word for 2025 is sustainability. Because if it's not sustainable, then we're not picking it up this year. It has to be sustainable. And that plays back to that simplify. And I think that to be able to grow a business to the size that you want to be able to grow it, you need to actually get rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that too many people are trying to grow by adding stuff, but it's actually about taking stuff away, whatever that stuff is. You know, it could be team, it could be, you know, it could be anything. But I guess what we're both coming from that same place. It's simplify, it's sustainability, and then bringing in that connection piece. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Sally, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and I wish you all the best for an abundant and joyful 2025.
Thank you very, very much. And likewise, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.